Welcome back to another episode of the Baseball Together podcast. We have some news, but biggest of all, Brig is back right now.
9 Plus Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. And now, Baseball Together.
Welcome back to another episode of the Baseball Together podcast, baseball family. I am Brad, and as I said before, our guy, Brig, is back in his chair. He is with us once again. Welcome back to the show, Brig. How are you today?
I am excellent, Brad. How are you?
I'm so happy you're here, Brig. I'm so excited.
Thanks, man. I am legit thrilled to be here.
I bet you are.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I'm ready.
I know, and we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get Brig caught up a little bit later, but first there is some stuff to get into. There was a little bit of news this week that we want to talk about because that's how we start every show, right? With the news. Yeah. So let's get into the news. First things first, ESPN has announced that they are exploring, quote unquote, an A-Rod cast. Now, this I think is interesting. So what they do, where this comes from, is Monday Night Football. They do on ESPN2 what they is, I don't think this is the technical term for it, but what people started calling it is the Manning cast or Manning Night Football.
Yeah.
Where Eli and Peyton Manning, they sit at their houses doing a remote broadcast and they just talk about the game. It's like watching the game with the Mannings, right? And I watched some clips. Yeah, it is. I don't actually watch Monday Night Football just because ain't nobody got time for that, and we're doing this instead. But the clips that I've seen, I love it because I love the Mannings. First off, like who doesn't? But it's a ton of fun. But what they're doing is they're going to have Alex Rodriguez and Michael Kay do Sunday Night Baseball. First things first with this, Brig. Is this good or bad idea? What do you think?
Well, I think the representative opinion of the demographic of fans is that what a great way to get A-Rod out of the mainstream. And lots of people are saying they would rather listen to Joe Buck than A-Rod.
It says something about
a
A-Rod in the
huge deal.
court of public opinion.
But I don't know. I don't know. I like Michael Kay, obviously. I love Michael Kay. He does a great job. I've been listening to him call games for years. And I think A-Rod is a terrific analyst. I've said that a million times. I think he does a great job delivering insider baseball information to people that otherwise wouldn't understand. And somehow the way he does it is fluid and easy to get a hold of. It's easily chewable. Easily chewable. It's for show back. There we go.
Something like that.
And we're anyway. That's
Tender,
what I
say that.
Yeah, it's not such a big deal. I think it could be a great alternative.
I think it'll be really good because I like to listen to A-Rod. It is funny though because people absolutely like shred him on the internet for some of the stuff he says. And what it is he deals in cliches, but he uses them in a way that people aren't used to. Like with the way he talks about things. Like I remember specifically there was one, somebody just drove a ball right up the middle, just hit it hard between second base and the second baseman. And it just dropped right on the grass for a single. And he goes, that's a good piece of hitting. No exit velo, no launch angle, whatever. He's like, just a good piece of hitting. And people are like, well, of course there was exit velo and launch angle. There's that on every single pitch. It's like, that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about just straight up hitting, not worrying about the barrel of the bat, just putting the barrel of the bat on the ball and putting it where they ain't, right? Like people kill him for stuff like that. And it makes me crazy because he's actually making a really good point that like this dude's just trying to hit the ball and he did a really good job there doing it, you know? Yeah. So I'm going to watch it. Like that's the version of baseball I'm going to watch on Sunday nights because I like that kind of stuff. I like when he's breaking down a guy's swing. He was talking about Cody Bellinger's struggles earlier this year. He swung and his helmet fell off. He's like, that means his head's not in the right spot when he's trying to hit the ball. That's why he can't hit it.
Right. He's off balance,
you know, stuff like that. Like we see guys swinging, their helmets fall off all the time. It's like, man, he really swung out of his hat on that one, but there's a reason for it. And he gave us that reason. So I don't know. I like it. I agree. I think it'll be good.
I totally agree. Not that I don't like the other broadcasters. They do a great job, but I like, now we have two, what I think are going to be good choices.
Yeah, I am a little confused why it's Michael Kay out of everybody available.
I don't know anything about why it would be Michael Kay.
It doesn't make any sense to me because I don't know that he has any affiliate with ESPN besides maybe having a show on an ESPN affiliate in New York, something like that. Because they have people in the bullpen they could bring in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if it was a straight Manning cast type thing and it was A-Rod and Jessica Mendoza? I know that they would probably, there would be a lot of people who straight up say, like, I'm not watching those two. But
No,
at the same
they
time,
would never watch that.
I don't know, but they have other people. They have other people available.
Well, so what
it's
I would
interesting
like
they
to
brought in
see,
Michael Kay.
yeah, what I would like to see is a players only broadcast team where it's
Yes.
like, get me Big Papi and Pedro, or get me and cycle it out every week so that it's a new combo of buddies doing a different show every week, or maybe they do a month. Maybe it's the month of the former Yankees players, and then it's a month of whatever. I don't know. But if you did a handful of games, you could go through each ball club, have representatives of former players that are articulate, that understand the game, all that kind of stuff. And I think you could find people with experience in the booth, behind the microphone, like A-Rod, like Papi, like the Big Hurt, Frank Thomas, for those of you who are new. You could get that kind of experience doing that kind of call, and I think it'd be great, man.
It would be really good. Well, TNT had TNT, the NBA on TNT. Anyway, they do something like that. They call it, I think they call it Players Night.
Cool.
Or Players Only Night, where in the studio they have all former players running the studio show.
That's awesome.
And it's cool. It's fun. It's like I can't remember who all they have on there, but yeah, like the hosts all step out, like the TV guys, they all step out, and it's all former players, men and women, NBA, WNBA, and they're in there talking basketball, and it's awesome because that's who you want to hear about this stuff from. You don't want to hear from.
Yes.
We appreciate you listening, but you probably don't want to hear from us when you have that other option, right?
Not when Frank Thomas is talking about hitting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Or Papi, his bigness.
Yes.
So, yeah, I totally agree with you. The other thing I think would be cool, though, do you remember when Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson fought and Snoop Dogg was doing the commentary?
Oh, yeah.
I think if you got the right dynamic, you got the right combination of people together, and maybe that's the answer. Maybe the answer is that the color commentators are the players, but the main play-by-play person is a celebrity with a huge crush on baseball, right? So you bring in Bill Murray, and he's in charge of calling all the Cubs. He's sitting in the booth with all the former Cubs players who are in on this, and they are bantering and making jokes the whole time. Now that is $1 million idea, ESPN.
That's a really good idea. I like that. I don't know that Bill Murray necessarily wants to work that hard, but no, it would work. But they did try that on Monday Night Football though with Dennis Miller, but Dennis Miller was the color guy. He wasn't the main play-by-play guy, right. So I don't know, but it's an idea, but I will say this, Michael Kay is plenty funny, so there could be some level of support with that.
Yeah.
But that all being said, they do have to replace A-Rod in the main booth, and do you know who they're replacing him with?
No.
David Cohn.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. He's good. He's really good.
Really good.
He might actually be a better guy to have in A-Rod's spot for the A-Rod cast than A-Rod.
Yeah,
because he'll bring a level of the irreverent with like the comedy and the really, really good baseball stuff.
And it's sly. His irreverence, his innuendo, and the jokes, you're just not sure half the time. And sometimes it's so dry, he'll go, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know how intelligent David Cohn is, you haven't been listening to any of the broadcasts he participates on with Yes, but also you've probably not listened to or read his book, Full Count, which is superb.
Yeah, really good.
Anyway,
yeah. So some changes coming with ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. I hope it's for the better because ESPN could use that on Sunday night with baseball. But we have some more changes. We're gonna stick with the Yankees just for a little bit. I'm sorry, everyone. You're welcome, Brig, for this.
Thank you.
But Rachel Balkovitz has been hired as a manager of the Yankees' Low A affiliate, the Tampa Tarpons. She is the first female manager of any MLB affiliated baseball team. This is a big deal.
It's amazing.
Ever. At any level.
Forever. Yes. She has a tremendous amount of experience in baseball. She's been working in the game for 10 years. She was managing an Australian baseball team, correct? In 2020 during the pandemic, I think, when she couldn't manage
just after,
when she couldn't do the minor league deal.
Yeah.
So that's freaking awesome. And then didn't you say she had experience in Denmark?
Yeah, so what I read that she had experience working with the Danish. Is it Danish? Denmark?
Ooh,
Dutch?
or is it
Dutch?
the Netherlands?
It was Denmark.
Sorry, Kim.
It was their
Kim gets
national
mad at
team.
me when I get Denmark and the Netherlands and Dutch and Danish mixed up. I don't know which is which. I can't.
So bad. Anyway, with the national team, she's been working with the national team for some time. She's a college catcher. Right. She has apparently multiple master's degrees. I'm not sure in what, but that's what the bio said. Should look that up. But anyway, very smart, very capable. I believe she's going to do a very good job. And she also managed was on the coaching staff for the Future Stars.
That's right.
This last year,
the Futures team, or the Futures game. Yeah. The other thing is she's not afraid of technology. She's using rapid eye movement tracking, blink rates, and swing mechanics, and power. She's a power lifter herself, so she's doing all this, integration between old school and new school ideas. But the coolest thing is I watched a video by I think it was by Momentum on YouTube, and check it out. We'll probably put a link in the description box, but she kind of outlined some of her philosophy, and it's exactly how I feel about athletes and athletics. She says, I would be a terrible coach if all I did was improve a guy's batting average. If all I can do is improve his on-field performance, then I have failed miserably. He needs to be a better person. He needs to be a better teammate, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, yes, right? Even when he leaves the facilities, he needs to be better as a person than when he came in and worked with me. And I'm like, I love it. It's exactly awesome. What baseball needs. And it has, but it's the right kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's very good. Very cool. I have a feeling we're going to see her up at the big league level at some point. She's still very young. She's 34. Like we said, been coaching for 10 years at this point. I think she has potential to be one of the first female big league managers.
Agreed.
If this season goes well, and we have a season and all goes well, I don't think that she would be in the minor leagues for too long.
Yeah.
But speaking of women in baseball, been a big week for that. We had Genevieve Beacom, who pitched for the Melbourne Aces. My wife went to Australia, so now she says Melbourne. Melbourne Aces.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But she made her debut for them Friday night. She's the first woman to pitch in the Australian Baseball League, and she's very good. Did you watch any of those clips?
I did. Oh, yeah, I totally did.
Really good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say big league stuff, but she's going to do well in the Australian League, I feel like. Rob Friedman, who is on Twitter as Pitching Ninja, he does a lot of overlays, so you can see pitchers with their arm slots, see fastball versus curveball. And the best pitchers, there is no difference between their arm slots. So it means that it's very difficult for hitters to identify whether a fastball is coming or a curveball, a changeup, whatever. So he did one with her, and they're identical.
It's awesome.
I was very impressed. It's very hard to do.
No kidding. Well, and what I saw when I was watching the clips is that she throws ground balls, and that's money.
That is, yeah.
She's not trying to get out and strike out everybody. It's just like throw a ground ball. It rolls its way to third base, and it's over.
Yeah,
and that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's outstanding. I think she would need to bring on more velocity to even make it to the minor leagues in the States. But it's a step in the right direction as far as the game goes in general, because,
totally.
Brig and I talk about this a lot. We follow Baseball for All on Instagram, and we follow that really closely. We think this is really cool. I mean, Brig's got a daughter who could potentially play baseball when she gets older if she wants to. And we want those opportunities open for her and other girls and other people's daughters as well. So,
amen.
It's very cool. We're very excited about this. It'll be something we'll continue to follow. Last thing before we go to break. This is something that's been very interesting. We don't have a whole lot of CBA or lockout news because, as we said last week, the owners have refused to come to the negotiating table. There has not been any negotiating going on. That being said, MLB also will not let the Angels talk to Adam Eaton for a potential coaching position on Joe Madden's staff because of the lockout and because he was part of the union last season. And he hasn't officially retired. Is the other thing is that he hasn't filed the paperwork, everything like that, and left the union, whatever.
Right.
But because he still technically could play this season, then that's why they don't want him to talk. Now, this is a problem. Brig, do you want to kind of outline the issue here that we see with this and going forward?
Well, from start to finish, this is the most information we have about the CBA
Yeah.
up to this point.
Yes.
Even though it feels tertiary, it's not, because we know the owners aren't coming to the table. We also know that they are split. This is really splitting hairs hard. I think
Big time.
there's no reason for Adam Eaton to take the field ever again, and there's no indication that he will. So why can't he interview? Because the front office and the coaching staff and everything, they're all exempt from this work stoppage thing, right? They can still be paid and they can still go and perform their duties, whatever those duties are at the moment. So,
Yep.
That, to me, that's the biggest deal, but it also indicates the tremendous difficulty that nobody's telling us about with the negotiations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is trouble, and it is. I feel like it's just one more thing of like the MLB being like, putting their thumb on the whole thing, trying to squash anything, any progress of anybody who has been part of the union in the last 13 months, even. Like we saw a few guys who didn't play on big league teams last year who have signed minor league deals. D. Strange Gordon was one of them. Jewel and I talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that Adam Eaton was cut back in August, and now Major League Baseball is like, nope, still can't. It's unreal. Yeah. It's petty. It feels really petty to me.
It is. It does feel petty.
All right. Before we go to break, Brig, you had one more thing you wanted to talk to us about. Go right ahead.
I have some news. I figured we'd put this in current events because it's a current event. Baseball family, I just got to tell you from the bottom of my heart how much I love you and how grateful I am that you've stuck with us this whole time and how awesome it is that you've supported us, especially Brad in my absence. I wanted to talk a little bit about my absence and why I was gone for quite a long time. And without getting into too many details, I just need to, I guess what I'll say is that we need to take our mental health seriously. It's a huge deal. And if you don't take care of yourself, if you're not practicing good self-care, then you could end up in a situation where you really need some help and you need to go way, way outside yourself to get it, like I did. So that's what I've been doing. I've been dealing with my own personal struggles. And I luckily had a great team behind me, friends and family and neighbors and everybody who said, dude, you're suffering. You need to get some help. So I did. It was like a really loving intervention. Not that interventions aren't loving, but nobody like hung a banner for me or anything like that. They just said nobody showed up in my living room like, surprise, this sucks for you and it sucks for everybody else. No, it was more of a frank conversation with some people, and they said, hey, what do you need? Like, let's real talk right now. Brad was part of that as well. So, that's all I'm going to say right now, potentially say more later. But now I just want to encourage you that if you're in a situation where you are hurting on the inside and your inside world doesn't match your outside world, you got to take action because there's a lot of hope on the other side. There's a lot of resources. There's a lot of help, and our mental health is very real. It's very important, and I encourage you to take it seriously. So with that, baseball family, stick back here and we'll take a quick break.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back with me. Root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Shop kids' baseball shirts at 9plusS.com.
Welcome back, baseball family. So, I mean, it's a little strange doing this because Brig and I usually alternate, so there's no issue as to who's leading in which segment. But I'm going to do it this time because we got to get Brig caught up. And we thought that we would reintroduce him to you, our listeners, via a rundown. Now, it's not going to be a traditional rundown. It's going to be like a hybrid because we got to get him caught up on some of the topics we talked about, give him a chance to speak his truth into the microphone as far as his opinions and things like that, because that's what this platform is for us to talk baseball to you. Also, there's going to be some rundown questions in there mixed in. So, Brig, are you ready?
I'm ready, I think.
All right. First question. What is your quest?
Peace and clarity.
Very good.
Yeah.
What is your favorite color?
It feels so different on this side. White is my favorite color. Don't give me that absence or presence of all color thing. I don't want to hear it.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts on Yasiel Puig going to the KBO, our beloved KBO?
Oh, man. Talk about a culture clash. That dude has enough personality to disrupt the entire peninsula. So I think what is going to happen is that either he will get kicked out or they're going to name a team after him. I don't know which it's going to be, but one of those two things is going to happen. It'll be the NC Dinos are playing the Doosan Puigs. Is what's going to happen.
They're just going to be the wild horses. They'll be the Doosan Wild Horses. That's what it'll be.
That's exactly
what it'll be.
What
I think that's.
And their mascot will walk around licking a bat. Just that's. And everybody in the stands with their mini bats, they'll go.
It'll be a horse with his tongue out of its mouth. It'll just be.
That's exactly right.
Always
exactly right. Or they'll kick him out and he'll try Taiwan.
Yeah, might see him on Australia eventually. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't think
he's just going to follow Manny Ramirez around. Is what he's going to
do. He probably will.
Manny being Manny, and there's Yasiel. There it is. The peas and carrots.
All right, Brig. Next question.
All right.
If baseball were a beverage, what would it be?
Lemonade. A nice, refreshing, ice-cold lemonade. It's just enough tart. It's just enough sweet. It's perfectly balanced. It's the thing you want on a hot day. It's acceptable to anyone in their moral compass. Everybody can drink lemonade. There's not a kosher problem. There's not an alcohol problem. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's lemonade, bro. Come at me.
That's perfect.
Thanks, man.
I like that.
I've never heard that question, but I've thought about that question.
Okay. Now, Cody Bellinger signed a 1-year, $17 million deal to avoid arbitration, but the news came out about 2 or 3 weeks after I guess it actually came out like between Christmas and New Year's, but the team said the deal was reached about 2 weeks right before the CBA expired. My question for you, do you think that there is potential for backdoor dealings going on right now with the lockout?
Oh, of course. And Scotty B's at the 4. He's up there with his battle axe and his shield, and he's like, who are we gonna mow down? You know what I mean? He's got his picket line behind him. They're in a phalanx position. All his lawyers with their spears behind him. It's like Leonidas in 300. That's exactly what's happening. He's like, my shield is obscuring my vision or whatever.
Very good.
His helmet, rather. Sorry.
What is your thought on MLB firing Ken Rosenthal for his criticism of Rob Manfred?
That is a great question, and I just wanted him to know that we have a spot for him here.
Most certainly.
So I don't know what he's worried about, if he is worried at all. It shouldn't be.
I don't think he is.
He can come on the Baseball Together podcast and have a platform to bash on Rob Manfred all he wants, anytime. We'll welcome it. Ken, bring your bow tie. Get over here, man. Let you get a free hat. It'll be awesome.
Well, we live at the corner of Fire Rob Manfred, and Brig has old man opinions and crankiness. So
that's exactly right. Curmudgeonery, I think.
Curmudgeonery, yes, term. There it is. That is
no, I think it's more evidence of this fiefdom that Rob has created, which again makes no sense to me. He's got to be just this puppet that is being pulled by somebody else. That there's no way that Rob Manfred is at the heart of all of this buffoonery. That's impossible. So I want to know what the left hand is doing while we're all being distracted by the right, which is back to your previous question. But on top of that, for you to be, just not just discriminated against, but I mean, this is persecution. I hate it. I think they can fire whoever they want, but if they're going to come right out and say, you poo-pooed the boss, and so we have to let you go. It's like, come on, man.
And that is one of the things that we talked about last week, is that like you have to be willing to accept some level of criticism, but like I also understand the freedom of speech without freedom of consequence kind of thing, like especially in the 100%. Workplace.
Yes.
He poo-pooed the boss on somebody else's clock, but he's got to be more self-aware and not quite so sensitive with that paycheck running that level of organization that he can't. He's got to be able to handle the criticism, because there are media people in other outlets and other sports who criticize the commissioner for the job they're doing, and they don't get fired.
Right. Well, and not only that, but guess what? He's a journalist. You're going to pay a journalist to report the news, and that includes public opinion, whether it's his opinion or not. So he editorializes every once in a while. Guess what? He's a tenured journalist. They editorialize a little bit. It's not a complicated situation. If you're going to pay journalists to be on the staff, you have to open yourself up to a certain amount of internal liability. Like, it's going to come back around. It's okay. Listen, this bugs me for a very personal reason. So when we were in college, we were both journalism students. Brad and I were a baseball family. And at one point in time, the journalism team started digging up information that made our university not look so good. And we wrote about it and we published it. And then when Brad and I left, the people after us kept writing about it and kept publishing it. And there are people, of whom I may be one, who may or may not have been squozen by the powers that be a little bit and leaned on, and maybe thinly veiled threats coming from like top down onto Poe Diddley, student journalist here, right? And guess what? Now there's no student journalism program at that school.
Yep.
Get over it.
For the record, I didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, you didn't know. That was me. I started it. I poked a bunch of other people kept going after we got together and poked the bear. Brad was not involved. I was, though.
I was hanging out at the athletic department while they were doing all this. So anyway,
it was really fun. Sorry, guys.
So, Brig, what if the Yankees were an ice cream flavor? What would they be?
Oh, man. I have to answer that question a little obliquely.
Okay.
Because I don't like ice cream, but that's neither here nor there. That has no bearing on my answer, but I don't like ice cream. Even if I loved ice cream with every fiber of my being, as I know many of you do, I do not think that there is an ice cream flavor yet developed that is regal enough, that is tasty enough, that is superior to that degree against all the rest to exist yet. So in lieu of an actual answer, I'm going to come up with something right now. I'm going to say it would be a Neapolitan blend Rocky Road with gold leaf. And the gold leaf would be schnozberry flavored.
Very fancy. Because the
Yeah.
schnozberries taste like schnozberries.
That's exactly right.
Very, very fancy. Okay,
That's what it would
last
be.
one. Last one for you here. This is actually a two-part question. What were the best and worst of last year for you with baseball?
The best
your
is that we
best.
had baseball
Okay.
and a full season of it. That's the best.
Okay.
Did you say first and second best, or what? Just best
No,
and worst?
best and worst. Best and worst.
Yeah, the best is that we had the season, and the worst was Rob Manfred. I mean, give me a hard question.
That's what I said. I said the worst person last year was Rob Manfred. Yeah,
Yeah, it
very
really
good.
was.
That is the right
And
answer.
calling
Very-
a piece of metal and all this, whatever, freaking idiot.
Yeah, very good. Okay, with that, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about an article we read this last week about competitive imbalance in baseball.
The Not Another Sports Podcast is the home of sports talk for everyone. Every other week, you can catch David and Jason as they talk about all things sports, from current events to classic moments and everything in between. You can find the Not Another Sports Podcast on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and more. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Welcome back, baseball family. Before we go, we have got to talk about competitive imbalance. This is a huge topic. There's a lot of nuances to it, so we're going to break it down a little bit and focus on one pinpoint aspect of it. And that today needs to be the player's opinion. And we finally have evidence to support what exactly that means and what it is in some, what I think are some pretty substantial terms. So Max Scherzer was quoted by the LA Times, Jorge Castillo, as having said this about the current collective bargaining agreement. This negotiation is about the integrity of the game from our eyes. That's what Scherzer said. We feel as players that too many teams have gone into a season without any intent to win during the past. And he goes on to acknowledge that, yes, it can be a strategy, but the problem is too many teams are doing it, whether they're large market or small market teams. We saw the tanking thing begin with small market teams who didn't have a chance to compete in the first place. And now we're seeing teams do it no matter who they are, no matter what their revenue capabilities are and spending capabilities. And I think personally, he's right.
He is. We saw the Astros win a World Series because they tanked for 4 years.
That's right.
4 or 5 years, however long it was. So, I mean, we know it works. And that's why teams are doing it more, because they saw the Astros. They're like, well, we could do this and not sign big name free agents. We don't need them. Yeah. If we're confident in our ability to develop top tier talent, then we can win in 5 years by tanking. But in the meantime, the Cubs did it. Yeah. But in the meantime, the problem is with the product they put on the field.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and how that affects the fan base and how that affects additional revenue streams. And think of all the okay, so a generation is 20 years, right? If you tank for 5 years, that's a quarter of a generation.
Yeah.
Think of what you're doing to the fan base. I mean, I'm irate when I see teams tank. It really, really bothers me. But again, like Brad said, I'm a curmudgeon at heart, and especially when it comes to baseball, like keep it pure. And that means go out there and put in the work and fight and play and want to win. Before I ask you, Brad, this next question, I want to make it one last point. Max Scherzer brings a tremendous amount of authority to this conversation because he is an association player representative for the Players Association. And while that's nifty, it's even better when you realize he's one of 4. There are only 4. There are only 4 players who are player representatives for the MLBPA. He's joined by Andrew Miller, Francisco Lindor, and Marcus Semien. Those are the people who are speaking publicly on behalf of the players union and representing the players.
Well, so I mean, you have to keep this in mind that every team does have a rep, but I think that there's
Yes.
like upper level representation, which is where Max Scherzer would
They're
fall
in
on this.
they call it the executive subcommittee
Okay, there we go.
of player
All right, very good.
leadership. There's a group of 4 pension reps as well, but that doesn't really have any bearing on this. But
No, not so much.
there are 8 players who have a leadership role in this hierarchy in the Players Association, and the player reps, he's one of 4. So
That's a
I
big
don't know
deal.
how they're brought into this. Are they voted in, or is this a
Typically,
volunteer thing?
from what I understand, the players are each team votes on their representative, and they'll send them. I heard David Sampson say a couple years ago that nobody wants to do it, so typically teams will vote on the guy who nobody likes to do it as like punishment for being that guy. But at the same time, I don't see that being Max Scherzer
Or Francisco Lindor.
or Marcus Semien.
Exactly.
So I don't know. Like maybe it happens on some teams, but I could see these guys, some veterans, being like, I can make a difference. I'm going to go to the table, and this will be my job. So I could see both sides of it. I could see happening either way. But anyway, so
and that's what happened with the old timers. If you talk about we were watching Fastball, and there's a bunch of old timers in there that were like, nah, look, we fought really hard to keep this together. Like Goose Gossage is the example that comes to mind. He's kind of proud of all of the time he spent being a player rep and fighting hard for these, and rightly so. So this is not an unheard of thing for a guy like Scherzer to truly step up and want to take this leadership role. So that's why I say when he speaks this way and he's this emphatic, and he's also been authorized to speak about this, it carries a bunch of weight, because he also probably has to get approval to go on the record with the LA Times and say things like this. Of course he does.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the big things that the players are fighting for is competitive balance, is length of contracts, free agency, things like that, because players, this is the thing, is that like what you see in front of closed doors is that guys just want to get paid, right? They're out there chasing the biggest contracts available. Okay. But this is the thing and one of the things they talk about is that like, I'm getting this deal so the guy after me can get more.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the things when Bryce Harper signed his deal. Within 24 hours, Mike Trout signed his massive deal.
Yeah.
And Bryce Harper, rather than being like, well, shoot, now I've got to go retool this thing. No, he tweeted out and said, that's why I held out, so Mike Trout could get paid. And, I understand people are like, I don't buy it. These guys are just greedy. That's what they want to do. But they're taking care of each other in this way. Like a group of employees are going to want each other to get paid fairly, right? Like there's a whole thing with that, especially now, but it's true. It's the way it goes. And so they're fighting for this, not just the money, but also they want teams to spend money to be competitive, because you can easily go out there and be like, okay, we're not going to win this year. As the Mariners, we're not going to beat the Astros because they're still the best team in the division by a long shot. We could just field a team of 4A players, pay them to put them on the field, get a little bit of ticket revenue, and we'll go for next year. Well, what they're wanting is teams that like, yes, build your farm system, because that's how baseball is designed, right? But in the meantime, you've got to pay guys to have a competitive product on the field, because it's not fun, it's not entertaining for even the players to go to, I don't know who is to. It's not fun for the Yankees to go to Baltimore, even though I guess did they lose there? I don't remember. Anyway, it's not fun for teams to go to Baltimore and just beat up on the Orioles, right?
No.
Like that's not a fun way. It's not a way to want to do your job. You don't want to go to those places where it's like, okay, we can pencil in 3 wins here and then go off to the next town. Like you want to be challenged at your job, especially if you're good at it.
Especially if you're striving for excellence.
Yeah.
Not just good at it, but these people are hyper competitive and they want to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to know if you're the best is to play against the best. That's
right.
it.
And so Brig and I talked a little bit about this before. We have a few ideas as to things that Major League Baseball can do to kind of help with the competitive imbalance, teams not being as incentivized to win, because like we talked about, you can tank for a few years, build a really good team for cheap and win.
Yeah.
And when you're bad, the way that things are built right now, when you're bad, you get the top draft picks. Like I think the Pirates get either the Pirates or the Orioles get the number 1 draft pick this next year.
I think it's Baltimore, but Pittsburgh would be right there.
But it's always one of those 2 teams getting the number 1 pick, right? And so they should be really good. Instead, Baltimore goes and trades things away. But that's a whole other thing. So there's that right now, and then there's also like there's no salary floor, so they're not incentivized to put talented players on the field by paying them. But anyway, it's a whole thing. So Brig and I have a couple of suggestions that baseball could put in place to help with the competitive imbalance. Brig, do you want to go with your first one?
Yeah, I think that one of the keys could be to disincentivize short contracts and re-incentivize these long-term deals. But you got to do a salary cap or a revenue share program. Like you have one of the two or both have to be in place for that's going to happen. But I think that having hometown heroes like Mike Trout, like Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, these huge deals that not only are huge in terms of money, but they're huge in terms of longevity, player leadership, clubhouse presence, and fan favoritism. And that's what I think these people are forgetting, that we are the fans. We pay the bills, right? Without us, nothing happens. So what they need to start doing is putting the best product in front of us that they possibly can. And I think a big, big part of that is going to get back to going hometown hero style, which I've said a million times. But I just really got to see, like I was excited by the 12 and 13-year deals because I'm like, yes, okay, now we will forever remember Bryce Harper as a Philly. You just will. Mike Trout will just be an angel. He just will be an angel. And it's great, right? I want that. The flip-flopping thing and the chasing the deal for a 3-year contract at the end of your career, like it's just crappy. It broke my heart when Albert Pujols was released from St. Louis to anywhere. It was like, it just crushed me. And I was like, dang it. Because he was the guy, you know, it's like if they let Molina go, if Yadi Molina was allowed to play anywhere else, it would be a crime against humanity, right? It would be terrible. And so the fan base it's the heart and soul of St. Louis baseball right now is Yadi Molina. He's like the guy. Mm-hmm. Oh, why did the Colorado Rockies get rid of Nolan Arenado? I don't understand.
Well, and they're in the process of getting rid of Trevor Story. They're going to be as soon as, I guess, not getting rid of him. They're going to let him walk because they don't want to resign him. They don't want to pay him. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Is that it is a long-term deal. That being said, though, I understand why teams don't want to pay those because you look at Albert Pujols the last 4 years of his contract.
For sure. Yes.
You know, so I understand that, and I feel like one thing they can do with along those lines is they can incentivize teams with their spending, with basically like a loyalty clause. Like you can give a guy you can offer a guy a little bit more money. You can offer him an extra year. This is what they do in the NBA. Is that if a guy stays with the team he was with in his previous contract, the team can offer him 1 more year on their max contract. They also have a ceiling. They have the maximum number of years they can offer. Baseball doesn't have that. They don't have a maximum number of years. They don't have a maximum amount of money. So if they were to put a ceiling on a contract and say, you can offer a guy an 8-year deal, but if he stays with your team, you can offer him a 9-year deal. I think we would see that happen a lot more often, that these teams would be more incentivized to do that. And the other thing that basketball does, because Jewel and I talked about this, the NBA has got the salary cap and the contract thing figured out.
They do. And everybody seems happy about it.
They do, because there's guaranteed money. There's also the teams are also protected with maximum amount of money, maximum number of years, things like that. And so if you've got a guy who's willing to re-sign with the team who brought him up, right, who he came up through the ranks with, who he made his major league debut with, in the NBA, they call it bird rights. I don't know what you would call it in MLB, but basically what it is his money doesn't count towards luxury tax, salary cap, anything like that. So it encourages the team to spend that money without taking the hit in the future. So,
wow, that's great. We should call it squirrel rights, because they're like, packing it in there early.
Well, it has to do more with Larry Bird than an actual.
No, I like bird. The animal, Brad. Can't you see the cheeks with the nuts in them, Brad?
Yeah, with the acorns.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. But, no, though, like I do feel like though keeping guys at home, though keeping guys with their home team,
yes,
is a big piece of it,
it is a
because
big piece.
like you talk about Albert Pujols specifically, that the Cardinals are known for not giving guys long deals, known for not giving guys big money, because like we can develop another one just like him for a tenth of the cost. Why would we
Yeah.
pay him?
Yeah.
So incentivize those teams to keep those guys around, and I think it would really help.
Okay,
Because then you
so
bring more free agents in. Because
that's exactly what you do.
guys went to the Angels because Pujols was going.
Totally. Here's the other thing I want to bring up. If everybody could relax about the money thing, think of what that would do.
Yeah.
If we're all just like, you know what, here's the rules. It's the same.
Because right now there are no rules. There are
There's
not
no
any
rules.
rules right now.
It's the Wild West. They're going to do whatever they want.
It is, yeah.
And so everybody is jockeying all the time, and they're swindling everybody, and there's all this like back channeling going on. It's just,
Because that's one of the things with the NBA, is that everybody knows what they're going to get going into free agency.
That's
is the
right.
guys like Devin Booker. So I live in Phoenix, right? So Devin Booker with the Suns, like he's coming. When he comes out of his contract, everybody knows his market value going into the offseason. Like Booker's going to get the money. It's just a matter of where.
Right.
And like with baseball, it's like, so coming up, right now you got Carlos Correa, who's on the market. Like if it was in the NBA system, everybody would know how much money Correa is getting. It's just a matter of where. Right now, it's like, who's going to be the highest bidder?
Right.
That's really the question. Whoever is willing to be the highest bidder for a shortstop in his mid to late 20s is going to be the one who gets him. And it's really unfortunate, because there are teams that not just aren't willing to do it, but can't do it.
Can't.
And
not a hope in
if there was
prayer.
Like you said, the revenue sharing, that would be a really big piece to helping that be successful.
Yeah, I agree. And there's so much to it. There's much to it.
There's a whole lot to it. But I have actually another suggestion.
Okay.
Actually, I have two, actually.
Whoa.
So let's go with the first one. So right now, like we said, the team with the worst record gets the first pick in the draft. Right. So there is a little bit of incentive to, like, as the season gets late. Obviously, you've been eliminated. Say you've been eliminated from the playoffs September 5th.
Yeah.
Mathematically. Okay. It's like, well, okay, we're not playing for anything now except for that number one pick. Let's just put a bunch of minor leaguers out there. Let's put our AAA team on the big league field, give them some experience, give those guys a chance to be big leaguers for a month, and we'll lose some games. We'll get the number one pick. Well, this is another thing the NBA kind of has figured out a little bit, is the draft lottery.
Right.
Now, the draft lottery with the NBA, there still is tanking. We saw the 76ers, they called it the process. No, they were tanking for a decade, basically, trying to get the best players available. And it didn't always work out for them because of the way that the lottery is set up. So their lottery is set up that the worst team gets the most ping pong balls. The best team to miss the playoffs gets the least amount of ping pong balls. Just give everybody one.
Yeah.
Give everybody one ping pong ball and say, you miss the playoffs, you get one ping pong ball. Everybody gets an even shot at the number one pick. And if you don't get it, good luck next year. Try to sign some free agents, right?
Yep. Yes.
Like the Rangers have gone out and spent a whole bunch of money trying to get better. They finished last in the AL West. They're probably going to finish third at worst this next year. The Mariners finished second in the AL West. Going to contend next year. Went and got the reigning Cy Young Award winner. So there's the draft, there's a free agency, and you can fix the draft by having a true lottery. Give everybody one shot, even odds to get that number one pick, so nobody is jockeying for position going into the last 2 to 3 weeks of the season. Now, the one problem with this is sometimes organizationally just stink, right?
Yeah.
So you can give them the number one pick 5 years in a row, and it's not going to matter, which we see. And that I can see that being the problem, is like, well, you didn't give us the opportunity to get the best player because we have the 10th pick, we had the 15th pick, and now we have the 7th pick, right? 3 years
but there's going to be whining anyway. It doesn't matter what
there's
you
always
do.
going to be whining, no
People
matter
are whining
what. Exactly
now.
Right. But it also incentivizes teams, like I said, to be competitive, because it doesn't matter how good or bad you are, whether you finish last in your division or miss the playoffs by a single game on the last day of the season. You have an equal opportunity to get that number one pick, get the best player.
That's right.
So I feel like that's the best way to fix the draft issue with the tanking, but I don't know if it would really work or not. But that's just my opinion.
I think ultimately what needs to happen is we need to set up either penalties for tanking or incentives for not.
Right. Yeah, and
that's it.
And so this is my other idea. Okay. I'm a relatively big soccer fan over the last few years. New soccer fan, but I'm getting to be a bigger soccer fan. You know this, right? So in the English Premier League and actually just European soccer in general, they have relegation. The bottom 4 teams, I believe, in the league go down to the next division below, go down to the B League, basically.
I didn't know that's what they called it.
Yeah, so that's relegation. It's like, so like in the Premier League, they have the Premier League, which is the top level, you know, and then like the bottom 4 teams go down to the Champions League.
Right. And the City League is the next one down or something like that.
Yeah. And so there's teams moving up and down every single year. Now, this could work. Like, this would like solve the problem, because nobody wants to get relegated. Because the problem you have with relegation is they actually address this on Ted Lasso, because they get, spoiler alert, they get relegated at the end of the first season. I'm sorry. So, but they talk about it starting in the second season. They say, we have a Premier League roster with a Champions League budget. So you would have a big league roster with a minor league budget, because you're not getting the advertising money, you're not getting the ticket sales. And I mean, part of the problem with that is the operation costs of a big league stadium.
Yeah.
Like, that would be tough. You know, like you would have over the last few years, you would have, I mean, this year would be what, like the Marlins, the Orioles, the Tigers, and probably the Pirates who would be relegated, you know? And so you'd have to have more of a table. You have to get rid of the leagues and everything like that, or something. But yeah, it would be a really big mess, like financially, organizationally, because the way that things work out as far as big league and minor league rosters go, like organizationally, like you basically with Major League Baseball, it would work out that I'm only going to use this as an example because I can think of their AAA team off the top of my head. If the Angels got relegated, the Bees would have to come up.
Yeah.
But that's not how relegation works. That's not how relegation works, though, you know. Right. So there would be some major organizational issues to work out, some major financial things to work out. Because could you imagine Mike Trout being relegated?
Nope.
Man, because I think the biggest reason the Angels stunk this year is because of injuries. Because Trout was out, Rendon was out.
Yeah.
You know,
Ohtani in and out,
but yeah, so that would be a really big problem. But it's like solved the problem in Europe. Because you can't tank. You lose a whole bunch of money if you tank.
Yeah, that's bad. I wonder if there's, I mean, anytime you implement a new standard or a new check, somebody's going to find a way to circumvent it every time. So the other thing Major League Baseball needs to do is if they're going to put in penalties, then they're going to have to be ready to renegotiate those penalties. They're going to have to rewrite the playbook constantly, which is what we're doing right now, honestly. I mean, that's what this whole CBA thing is about. But they haven't allowed it to come back around and deal with it in a reasonable amount of time. They keep putting it off. And so there should be like a no putting off the CBA every 2-year rule. Like, no, if we haven't looked at every single thing every 2 or 3 years, like we're not, or 5. And if there's evidence that a team tanked over the last 5 years, 2 seasons or more, penalty. Here's the penalty.
Yeah.
Something like that could make a lot. I don't know, but I mean, you have positive reinforcement, you have negative reinforcement. I mean, that's it. So
right.
Do both, I say.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really strange thing to navigate, and baseball is working on it. It's one of the big talking points this year with the CBA, with the lockout. We have, like we said, a couple ideas. Obviously, relegation is not going to work in big league baseball. There are too many pieces, but it would certainly solve the problem. I think the lottery could solve it. I think encouraging guys to stick around. I think your idea was great, Brig. I think it was fantastic. It could really go a long way to helping.
Well,
So
thank you. You know, the
I
only
don't
other
know.
suggestion I would make is to expand to two more additional teams.
It might, because the other argument for not expanding though is that it always waters down the league. It's hard enough as it is to find pitching,
Well, that's true, but
and you get 10 more starters out there with what you've
yeah,
got. It's
yeah.
tough.
No, I see what you're saying. But if you implemented that along with the additional revenue sharing, salary cap,
Yeah.
you know, and the floor, the earning floor, I don't
Mhm.
know. I just think that more incentives. I mean, for me, it all comes back to the fans. How are you going to please the fans? How
Mhm.
are you going to consistently put a good product on the table, sell it to us in a way that's not just palatable, but leaves us wanting more? And then how do you repeat that process over and over and over again? Savannah's got it figured out. They
Mhm.
sell out every game. The
Yeah.
Pioneer League, they're killing it right now, right?
Mhm.
Like their ideas are awesome, and they are making sure that it's awesome.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball right now is not making sure it's awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's what they're all bickering about right now, but I don't know if that's what they're doing.
Well, they're not bickering about anything right now, unfortunately. I'd rather have them
Yeah.
bickering than what's going on right now is
Yeah,
the
you're right.
problem.
I
But
agree with
anyway,
you. Whatever.
yeah. Well, Brig, go ahead and plug the shop before we get out of here.
Baseball family, do not forget to jump on 9plusus.com. That's NINEPLUS.com, 9plusus.com. Brad is wearing his perfect hat and his Baseball Together podcast t-shirt. I'm wearing 42, and I got the 10th player hat on right now. So that's all the stuff you can get on the shop, and get yourself something nice. We should do a discount code today just because.
We should. What should we call it? Briggs back?
Yeah.
Okay. Put in Briggs back, no apostrophe, one
No
word, no
apostrophe.
space,
Yeah.
and you'll get 20% off your order at the shop.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Thanks, Brad.
I love it.
I do too.
Hey,
let's do
that's
it.
what we're here for, ideas. And also, baseball family, don't forget to hop in the mailbag. Send us your questions, comments, concerns, snide remarks. You can click the link in the description. We always have a link in the description for the mailbag. You can also jump on baseballtogether.com. There's a link in the navigation. Send those our way. We have a plan for content, Brig.
We do.
Hop on Baseball Together and read about baseball as well. There's going to be some content coming your way for that. We're very excited about it. It's going to be very fun. And also like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Let us know what you think. And baseball family, with that, we will catch you next week.